At dawn on June 6, 1944, D-Day, the bloodiest amphibious landing in history, was unfolding on the beaches of Normandy. But the story we're about to tell didn't take place on the shoreline. It happened in a small village inland, where an American medic named Ken Moore had just landed in the middle of a storm of gunfire. Ken ripped off his parachute, sprinted through mud and rubble, searching for shelter. He spotted a single white building still standing, a church with a large red cross symbol painted on its roof. Inside, he met another medic, Robert Wright. They barely had time to exchange names, Kevin Moore, Wright, Robert Wright, before the door burst open and the first wounded soldiers were carried in. Their challenge was enormous. They had only their personal first aid kits. No supplies. No backup. Meanwhile, the fighting outside was turning into a brutal house-to-house battle. 2 medics in crossfire. Ken Moore couldn't stay put. He made a decision that could cost him his life. He would go back into the firefight to bring the wounded in. He didn't have a jeep. He used what he found, an old wooden wheelbarrow from the church. Crossing the open road, a German soldier spotted him, aimed, finger on the trigger, and then the soldier stopped. Because on Ken's helmet and armband was the unmistakable Red Cross. Ken and Robert took turns running into the battlefield, using the wheelbarrow as a makeshift ambulance. Every return trip was a race against death. This wheelbarrow became a symbol of extraordinary courage, of choosing to save lives above everything else. As evening came, Ken returned again with another wounded man. But this time, the atmosphere inside the church froze. The man he brought in was a German soldier. Silence. American wounded stared at him, the enemy who had just tried to kill them. But Ken ignored every glare. He knelt down and began treating the man. Robert joined him without a word. No one objected. Years later, Ken explained, they were young men just like us. They only wore a different uniform. Their act of humanity set a precedent. A German soldier armed with a rifle entered the church. He saw his wounded comrade being treated, lowered his weapon, made the sign of the cross, and walked out. A neutral zone is born. Realizing the danger, Robert Wright immediately declared, no weapons inside. Everyone, American or German, had to leave their guns at the door. The church became an unofficial neutral medical sanctuary, accepted by both sides. When the 101st Airborne was forced to retreat, the medics were ordered to withdraw as well. But they could not abandon their wounded. Ken and Robert looked at each other and stayed. When German forces retook the village, a German officer entered. Robert stood firm and insisted the no weapons rule applied to them as well. The officer smiled, thanked him, and promised medical supplies and a doctor within 24 hours. A silent, unwritten truce. Another miracle followed. When American forces later counterattacked, something remarkable happened. Whenever Ken and Robert walked onto the battlefield to rescue the wounded, gunfire in that area would briefly stop. Both sides had created a silent ceasefire, out of respect for 2 men risking everything to save lives. Then came another miracle. A mortar shell crashed through the roof of the church, but it didn't explode. Robert quickly threw it outside before it could detonate. For 3 days and 2 nights, the 2 medics treated more than 80 wounded soldiers. Only 2 died, a staggering survival rate. A legacy written in blood and stone. The church still stands today. A memorial honors the 2 medics. The wooden pews still carry the bloodstains from that day. Robert Wright passed away with one last wish, to be buried at the church. Although it couldn't be done officially, Part of his ashes was quietly returned to France and buried in the churchyard, marked by a small stone engraved REW. The story of Robert Wright and Ken Moore proves that even in the darkest, most brutal war, humanity can carve out a small island of peace. If this story inspired you, please like the video and subscribe for more extraordinary moments from history. See you in the next episode.